He was only 16, homeless, and overlooked by nearly everyone. Most people passed him on the street without a second glance. But one morning, in front of the city's most exclusive cafe, he stopped a millionaire in his tracks. What began as a simple plea for a few minutes of attention turned into a confrontation that would shake an empire. Because this teenager wasn't asking for money, he carried a secret powerful enough to bring down one of the wealthiest men in the city. How did a boy with nothing expose a millionaire with everything? This is the story you need to hear. Marcus Reed was just 16, yet life had already pushed him into battles most adults never face. Homeless since he was 13, he drifted between shelters, libraries, and abandoned corners of the city. His clothes were worn thin, his meals uncertain, but his mind sharp, disciplined, relentless, was his greatest weapon. Teachers once called him gifted, but without a stable home or family, society saw only another black teenager destined to slip through the cracks. Still, Marcus refused to be invisible. At night, while others slept, he studied old newspapers, city plans, and economic reports he salvaged from trash bins. During the day, he took odd jobs, sometimes sweeping floors, working in City Hall as a janitor. There, between discarded documents and overheard conversations, he uncovered secrets powerful enough to change his future. One of those secrets pointed directly to a man named Jonathan Sterling, a millionaire CEO admired for his success but whispered about for his ruthless business deals. Sterling embodied everything Marcus didn't have: wealth, privilege, influence. Yet beneath the polished surface of his $4,500 suits and luxury cars was a man desperate to protect his empire at any cost. When Marcus discovered a hidden opportunity linked to Sterling's world, he knew it was his chance. Not for charity, not for scraps, but for justice. And so, one crisp morning outside the Grand Oak Cafe, as the millionaire stepped toward his silver Mercedes, Marcus took a breath, gathered his courage, and decided to speak. What neither of them realized was that this brief encounter would ignite a chain of events exposing corruption, betrayal, and a fight for dignity that would change both of their lives forever. As Jonathan Sterling adjusted his cufflinks and prepared to slide into the back seat of his silver Mercedes, a voice cut through the morning bustle. It was calm, clear, and confident, though it came from a boy who looked like he hadn't eaten a proper meal in days. Marcus Reed stood there in a faded hoodie and scuffed sneakers, his back straight, his eyes steady. Sterling's first instinct was irritation. To him, the sight was familiar. Another homeless teenager, another interruption. He expected a plea for change, a request he could swat away with the wave of a hand. But Marcus didn't ask for money. He asked for a single minute of Sterling's time. A minute, he promised, could earn the millionaire tens of millions of dollars. The words were almost laughable. Sterling had spent decades building his empire, brushing shoulders with governors and bankers. And now a teenager, black, homeless, and standing on the sidewalk outside a cafe he could never afford, was daring to present him with a plan. Still, Marcus's composure was unsettling. He wasn't begging. He wasn't desperate. He was certain. He spoke of an abandoned lot on Riverside Boulevard, dismissed for years because of soil contamination. He explained how the contamination was shallow, removable with a treatment pioneered at Brighton University for just a fraction of the expected cost. And then came the revelation that made Sterling pause: the Green Metro line. Marcus revealed that the city council had quietly approved an extension, with a station set to open directly beneath that very lot in under 2 years. Property values would explode, multiplying 20-fold almost overnight. Sterling stiffened. He had tried for months to pry that information from City Hall, using every connection he had, yet here it was being laid out by a teenager in worn shoes. Suspicion took root. How could this boy possibly know? Marcus explained. For half a year, he had worked as a janitor inside City Hall. He cleaned floors, emptied bins, and silently collected what others discarded. Meeting notes, drafted contracts, careless conversations from powerful men who never thought twice about the boy scrubbing the floors nearby. Piece by piece, he had built a puzzle no one else had the patience or the humility to see. To back his claims, Marcus handed Sterling a battered flash drive. Inside, he said, were technical reports, feasibility studies, and even signed construction contracts. Sterling's hands trembled as he pocketed it, though he masked it with a scoff. He couldn't let the boy see curiosity crack his armor. Instead, he reached for what he thought was power, money. He offered Marcus $6,000 as a consulting fee. It was more cash than Marcus had ever seen in one place. But it wasn't what he wanted. Marcus didn't flinch. He demanded 20% of the profits. Not a handout. Not pity. A stake. Something a millionaire like Sterling would never imagine granting to someone like him. Sterling laughed. A sharp, dismissive sound that sliced through the air. Business partnerships were for adults with capital, he sneered, not for children from the streets. He turned his back, expecting the encounter to end there. But Marcus had planted a seed of unease that Sterling couldn't shake. That night, Sterling hired a private investigator. What he uncovered seemed to confirm his prejudice. Marcus was an orphan, drifting between shelters, with no bank account and no stability. But it also revealed something more dangerous: Marcus's academic brilliance, his terminated City Hall record, and the evidence of his secretly gathering architectural plans. Sterling thought he was dealing with a reckless boy chasing scraps. What he didn't know was that Marcus had already set a trap. And the moment Sterling opened that flash drive, the clock began ticking toward his downfall. The flash drive was more than proof, it was bait. Hidden inside the files Marcus handed over was tracking software, silently recording every move Sterling made. Each time the millionaire opened a document, copied a report, or forwarded a contract, the evidence was duplicated and sent to a secure server. Sterling believed he was stealing from a homeless teen. In reality, he was digging his own grave. Within days, whispers turned into headlines. The Securities and Exchange Commission announced a full-scale investigation into Jonathan Sterling. His accounts were frozen, his company's transactions flagged. Then came the leak, confidential recordings of Sterling's private lunches with city officials, deals that reeked of corruption and insider trading. Overnight, the polished millionaire became a symbol of greed and deceit. Panic consumed him. Sterling tried everything, first offering Marcus $1 million to walk away, then 30%, then 60%. But Marcus remembered the moment he was tossed $6,000 like pocket change, a reminder of how men like Sterling saw him, not as an equal but as someone unworthy of respect. Now the tables had turned. Marcus wasn't the one begging. Sterling was. When federal agents stormed his office, the millionaire who once mocked a boy in ragged shoes could do nothing but watch as his empire crumbled. The man who believed power and privilege could shield him from consequences was led away in handcuffs. His name smeared across every news channel in the country. And yet, the true climax wasn't Sterling's downfall. It was Marcus's rise. A teenager the world dismissed as invisible had exposed the rot at the heart of a millionaire's empire. In a society that often silenced voices like his, Marcus had made himself impossible to ignore. The question now was simple: what would he do with that victory? Jonathan Sterling's empire was gone. His wife left him, his children cut ties, and his company collapsed under the weight of corruption. Once admired for his power and wealth, he was reduced to a prisoner serving a 24-year sentence. For the first time, the man who thought himself untouchable faced the consequences of greed and prejudice. But Marcus Reed's story didn't end with revenge. Alongside Professor Isabel Romero, he purchased the Riverside Boulevard property that Sterling once coveted. Together, they launched the Reed-Romero Housing Initiative, the city's first residential project designed for homeless youth pursuing education. What was meant to be another luxury development became a sanctuary. 120 apartments, a public library, and study halls open around the clock. The same boy once dismissed as just another homeless kid now stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, applauded as a visionary. When offered a full scholarship to Yale, Marcus chose instead to stay and expand the housing project. His mission wasn't to escape, but to rebuild a city that had overlooked too many young people like him. On live television, he spoke words that echoed far beyond the city limits. Revenge destroys, justice builds. I was offered crumbs, but instead, I chose to create a banquet. His story became more than one boy against one millionaire. It became a reminder of how easily brilliance is overlooked when wrapped in poverty, or when worn on the skin of someone society underestimates. Racism and inequality didn't just silence Marcus, they nearly buried him. But when given the chance, he proved that intelligence, determination, and integrity will always outshine privilege without substance. So the question remains, how many other Marcus Reeds are out there, ignored, dismissed, invisible, waiting for the world to finally listen? Marcus's journey reminds us that brilliance can come from the most unexpected places, and that prejudice often blinds us to it. What do you think about his choice to build justice instead of chasing revenge? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories that matter.